Only very rarely in the life of a nation does someone's death stir great emotions, and this was one such day. As the cortège bearing Margaret Thatcher's body made its way through central London, many thousands used every vantage point they could. This, after all, was a moment of history, the passing of a woman who, for better or worse, reimagined her country and who forced change on it. Of course, the only other British Prime Minister ever to have been afforded anything like this was Winston Churchill, who, after all, helped defeat Nazism across Europe in the Second World War. Whatever you think of Margaret Thatcher, whether you're for or against her, it's quite hard to suggest that she brought a nation or a continent together against a common enemy in the same way, and yet it does appear that through this, the political class here wants almost to immortalise her in the same way. And indeed, even though this was described as a ceremonial rather than a state funeral, it was difficult to see the difference. It certainly had a pronounced military overtone. It was inevitable that there would be a display of class conflicts, if not class war, along the route.
I remember what the country was like before she was in power, with governments constantly brought down by a strike action and power cuts and shortages of bread and sugar, and she put a stop to all of that.
And right on cue, along came this man, all the way from northern England, which did so badly under Thatcherism.
These people were fighting for the jobs. They weren't fighting for pay rises. They weren't fighting for anything else. I mean, if this government still had their way, we'd still be sending people down the mines at 10 years old. We'd have chimney sweeps to 14-year-old girls.
Down the road were veterans of the Falklands conflict, her own military legacy.
She was a woman that gave me an opportunity to go and do what I was trained to do. And I thank her for that, and that's why I'm here today.
Would you put her in the same bracket as Churchill?
I think so. I know so.
And opposite there, the most vocal anti-Thatcherites who couldn't believe this woman, who privatised much of British industry, was having her last goodbye funded by the taxpayer.
Waste of money!
Her death and her legacy certainly split the country, and to be spending £10 million on what is a state funeral in all but name, I think is an outrageous decision.
In fact, the service itself was the only part of this that wasn't overtly political. It was instead supposed to reflect Thatcher's deep personal faith. This was a woman who famously loved a political row. It's really quite something that she managed to do it, even after her death. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera, London.